Why are you the way you are, huh? Wait, this is the one I wanted to go under. There we go.
Everyone likes Mr. Rogers. Everyone's a fan. They get him all the way down to New Zealand. You know.
I noticed you're doing an unintentional New Zealand segment right now because I believe the last game you were just talking about is also a New Zealand developed.
It is.
So
really?
You've got yeah. They're made by, I believe that's made by Pickpock, the game you were just showing, who's there in Wellington. So you've got your thematic segment going on here.
Fantastic. Yeah, it was all planned from the start. Me and
from the start.
Yeah.
Ignore those. Oh, really? As we just said, that was all part of the.
Look, all part of the show. Edit them out in post.
I love these guys.
I don't know if you know them personally.
Drop frames are great.
In my chat, one of the devs.
My dog is so sassy right now.
And they were delightful.
Oh wow.
Awesome. I do know, Mario, who's kind of the head of the studio. I'm good friends with. So.
You know Mario?
Oh, nice.
From the Mr. Mario from Nintendo.
Cut it. Stop.
I thought he was Italian. He's from New Zealand.
JP's
Jonathan, we are so sorry.
It's okay.
Okay.
All right.
So anyway, you work on a game or something? Yeah.
Jonathan, you're the co-founder, game director on Path of Exile 2. Give me like the quick and dirty of how you came to be at GGG, Grinding Gear Games, and how you are in your current role. If there is a quick and dirty of that.
Yeah. So effectively, as you said, I'm one of the founders of the company. I was a founder right out of university. I was friends with my best friend at the time, and still the case, Chris Wilson. We just were like, we absolutely want to make a game. We knew we wanted to make what we definitely referred to as a sequel to Diablo 2. We were just like, no one's making this. We need to do it. We just formed a game company to do it. That's really the long and the short of it, to be honest.
Fantastic. So been there. How many years is that then at the company?
Oh, I mean, it was 2006, so I suppose 19 years.
Don't do the math.
That's,
and now we're all old.
Yeah. Actually, I realized recently that our company is more than half the age of the internet, which was kind of like a terrifying realization I had the other day.
Jesus.
I thought Mr. Rogers is supposed to bring like happiness and joy and a feeling of goodness to.
And the
A dog is just wanting loves. We're gonna watch this interview because apparently it was a funny interview, and then we're gonna play some.
The other day.
We're playing hardcore, so we'll see how things go. It has not gone good so far, in my opinion, at all.
Get all out.
Yeah, I was talking to someone in the studio and I made a reference to Jurassic Park and someone didn't understand it. And I was like, how the hell do you not understand a Jurassic Park reference? Like, what's going on?
Oh God.
You'll probably get a kick out of this, Jonathan. And so many
Oh God, his age.
KCD2, on the save your schnapps, there's an icon of a floppy disk that represents saving.
Yeah.
The amount of people that have no idea
Floppy disk,
what
yep.
that reference is for, just zero. Anytime they see the save icon, they're just like, that's just some weird icon game devs use for saving. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Awful.
Good boy.
Right.
Jonathan, what games did you grow up on? I guess is where we'll start. Like, and specifically,
Goddamn interviews. Not interviews, commercials. I need to pay for free.
what games outside of ARPGs? Because obviously you had a strong influence from ARPGs, right?
Just a little.
Just a smidgen.
I mean, it's honestly a variety. Like, people have often asked me, like, what are my favorite games of all time? And it's like a really hard question. I'm trying to think, like, the really standout ones might be like StarCraft and Warcraft. But also like Half-Life, like absolutely. Quake, definitely.
Quake is a good one.
Final Fantasy
Good
7
choice.
and through 9, like these were games that I loved growing up. But also like Spyro and Crash Bandicoot and this kind of thing as well. Like, it's kind of like a huge variety of different kind of things that when I was growing up. I mean, a lot of shooters as well, like just first-person shooters. Like I played a lot of those. I mentioned Half-Life specifically because it's like the real standout, of course. But I honestly I wish there were more single-player shooters. is a serious thing in this.
I would agree as well.
That's something that it's a genre I honestly miss.
Yeah.
But
Like that's the unfortunate part. There isn't a whole lot.
So
There
I
isn't a
just
whole lot.
heard, GGG is going to make a single player shooter. Is that correct?
That's
I
what
don't
I
think
heard.
so. Honestly, that is probably not even
You
slightly
play
in
as
my
Sin,
wheelhouse as
and
far as
you're
skills are
going to go
concerned.
and just blast everyone. It's going to be fantastic.
Honestly, I wouldn't be against if they made a shooter.
Well, that's
Path of
fantastic.
immersive shooting.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You've had, let's say, a busy first week after
For sure,
the Point
sure.
2 launch. This is, I guess, the start of your Monday, right? The start of week 2
Yep.
of the new patch.
Yeah, we're just
I
watching
hope you got some rest over the weekend.
his
first
interview,
off.
and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I feel like we should just start with, so how we feeling?
Yeah.
How we doing?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's been a week for sure. You know, and it's like, I would definitely say we've never had, like, I mean, so we've had a few cases that have been close to this, I would say, in the past, in terms of like, you know, like the community being very unhappy about a lot of things. But this one was certainly taking the cake.
I didn't realize I'm on Jonathan right now. That's the reason why I had it zoomed out.
Response is always the same thing, right?
I didn't realize
Hear
that.
what people say,
Whoops.
try things out. We see if we,
Oh,
what we agree with.
We'll zoom it out.
Try to find
It just looks
solutions that
goofy.
fix, you know, any kind of problem that the community have, and we keep on doing that. We keep iterating. I would say one of the things that that's been going on this time is there's certainly like an urgency at the moment to feel like, okay, we have to make sure that everything we're doing, we're like telling people that immediately. So
I do like that.
Wouldn't post. Like,
They're very
every day normally.
normally they don't.
So
It's
normally
usually
that's stuff
like
sort of
at the end of the
happening
week.
but we really wanted to make sure people are understanding the fact that we are kind of, you know, like looking into these things and improving things. So you know, that's certainly been a bit of a ride. But you know, like I'm certainly a believer that the more we do that, the more you know, like the people will, you know, will effectively be happy once, you know, once we've made fixes to all of the different things they're unhappy about. The hardest part, honestly, is just identifying the problems.
Right.
And
yeah.
I think.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I mean that's one of those things where, like, so for example, like a lot of people were talking about like monster speed, and it's like, okay, so when the people are talking about that, they're talking about getting swarmed by monsters, right? And so then it's like, okay, well, why do you feel like you're getting swarmed by monsters? And then one of the things that we found, which we patch noted last week, is there was this system that monsters had where if they were doing like a multi-part combo, then there was a thing called an interrupt event where effectively, like, if the player got out of range of the monster, they would interrupt doing that skill and then continue chasing you immediately. And that means that effectively you didn't get a chance to kind of you know, like if a monster starts attacking, like they're doing like a sort of 3-hit combo, they'll do the first one, you'll be backing off from that, and then they'll immediately start running again, and then immediately start the combo again. And so that kind of thing just makes them feel incredibly frantic.
They're
So just like certain monster types that just have that real frenetic kind of frantic feeling. And
Ooh, I didn't know that.
we disabled that on almost all monsters as an example, and like immediately it's like now when you're fighting those monsters, like even though like we haven't changed the speed of the monsters per se, we just found the thing that made them feel ultra fast as you're fighting against them.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like it's really just a continuous sequence of like finding things like that. And when you obviously, you know, we have like a lot of monsters in our game, like huge numbers of them. I mean, the eventual count of monsters we will have once we exit early access will be over 700. But even now, I think we've got over around 400 or something like that. It's like a ridiculous number compared to what most games have. And so it's like, you go back to some of these monsters and it's like, I don't even remember what was going on with this monster when we developed it. You know, it's like
Stream
this was
chat.
a while ago. Like I don't know what's going on. You know, so
Why am
guys
I?
kind of have to have a look at these things and sort of refresh their
Okay.
memories. Like, okay, what the heck is it? How's this thing even set up? Like, what's even going on with this thing?
Yeah.
You know, let's find out. So there's kind of a lot of that going on. So it just takes a while to kind of like assess these things and work out. So we did our first batch of those types of changes last week, but you know, we're still sort of looking into things, and like those are the kind of the more obvious ones. But honestly, with a game like ours, like the more you look, the more you find. Like there's sort of an infinite ability for like problems to hide in the ridiculous amounts of numbers and animations and sort of things like that. So you know, it's just a matter of finding everything, and you know, if we can find everything, then you know.
Jamie's on edge. It's her first time.
I hate these commercials so much.
I have no doubt that people will enjoy the game much more.
I think they will.
Is that
Speaking
just-
of,
That was the problem.
just speaking about,
But it just feels like
I'd be interested to learn.
monsters are tanky. You have to combo everything.
Is there like, I wonder if there's like a shorthand, you know, like for the like certain groups of monsters, like Bruce, Chad, Doug, like these are the monsters, like that, like, so you don't say like epic beast from the hell pit of blah 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 blah. So you just say like that's Dan or that's
They
Chuck,
do have
you know?
internal names. I don't know if Dan is one of them,
Oh,
but
man.
they do,
Damn it.
they do have internal
Sorry,
names,
Dan.
and that'll just be whatever the artist happened to name the folder when they were creating the model in the first place. Like just whatever they happen to choose, that'll tend to be the name.
That's funny.
And,
Okay.
yeah,
Serious
there's
question here.
certainly some kind of random ones in there, but that's for the data miners to find, I suppose.
Are any of them hilarious?
yeah. Is there a Chad?
I'm sure they are, but I can't think of any of
Okay.
them. I think at some point, so in POE1 actually,
Dan, the harbinger of
some
hell.
of the like the boss of Act 3 is just called Pope. So like there are things like that because
Yeah.
I think that's what they were looking at when they were designing it. But it's like I think in POE2 they actually started to get a little bit more rigorous with trying to make sure the names aren't super out there.
Okay.
So yeah, most of the names are kind of
That's funny.
not
That's actually
not
true.
too out there.
If I was these other names, I'd have funny names for them. I'd actually probably get in trouble.
Than what it's called in the game, just because the naming part is like the last part. And usually,
Emmerich,
and
you're
even on like
stupid.
streams and so on, I'll often refer to things by their internal names, like even just areas and stuff like that, because that's what they're originally called.
Yeah. Anything in the game
Oh, you
named
learned them, yeah.
after you, Jonathan? Is there?
No, not at all. I'm
All right. Nothing like that. I
There's
want to
no
go.
noob Saybot in this.
Yeah, no noob Cybot at all. I want to go back to what you said in terms of like the monsters and finding what's wrong. And is that just purely a numbers game? Like, are you constantly playing the game, reading comments? Like, how do you attack that when you're, when the internet is screaming? How do you like cut the noise and figure out exactly what is actually at fault?
Well, the key thing really is that I'm never going to make a change unless I can reproduce the suck for myself. Like, I'm not going to just believe someone when they say this is bad. I'm going to like say, okay, so you're telling me that's bad. Great. I'm going to play this. I'm going to try and get to a situation where I can understand why you're feeling this way. Because if I don't do that and we just make random from the hip changes, then it's not going to result in a game that I'm happy with, and that's kind of important because in order to make the game good, it's really important that the people who are at the top level are playing that game every day. I have to be making a game that I'm enjoying. So effectively, like, I need to be finding the things that are going to like make the game more fun
I
for
agree
me
with that.
and
That's
for
actually
players
amazing.
without making it less fun for me, effectively. So that's kind of the key for me, I suppose. When it comes to that specific monster change, I mean, I have to admit that was actually like Mark who discovered that one, not myself. But that particular change is kind of one of those things. And by the way, the area that you're showing on screen right now, like that is an example of one of the monster sets that did have this problem. Like those monsters, were
Oh,
like incredibly
actually, that's why that area was a pain in the
it's just a matter of,
ass.
like, okay, let's play this area. Let's try and like a variety of builds. Let's see if we can find a build that feels overwhelming and bad and that kind of stuff. And you've got a lot of blind spots when you're playing as a game director because you know how to play, right? So you have to like often set challenges for yourself. Like, now I'm going to play without this. Now I'm going to play with this thing. Like one of the key things that's really important as well is I'd like to do run-throughs where I pick the thing that I would least want to pick. So whenever the game presents me an option, I pick the thing I most don't want to pick, and then see how it goes.
Sure.
And that can result in obviously you do have to have like options that you can make where you can make mistakes. But you still have to understand what the lowest bound is as far as like what if I pick everything bad, if I'm doing
Never
the worst
considered that.
ideas here, what kind of experience do I have? And so that's something that that you also
Call
sort
those
of have to
streamer
get
runs,
into
by
as
the
well.
way.
But
It's also not wrong when like streamers do like I will only use melee.
One of the things with the Huntress, I think that's been really interesting is that, and this is maybe going to sound a bit bad, but it's like most of the time when I'm watching a streamer playing the Huntress, they're playing it not as I would play it.
Judge
let
me,
just say.
Jonathan.
You
Tell
can
me-
say-
tell me
okay.
that I suck, Jonathan.
You can
I
say
wanna hear
wrong.
it.
You can say that. You can be like, most of the time I watch streamers play the Hunters, they're playing it wrong.
Yeah. But the thing is, I mean, look, at the end of the day, though, it's like, okay, if people aren't like playing in a way that I expect, it's because we haven't communicated the way we want people to play it, or people have tried it and they've not enjoyed it and that kind of stuff, right? So that's, at the end of the day, it's always on us still. But it's, you know, it's just one of those things that that
Yeah, and with the commercials, I need to get free. I need to get ad free. Really do.
I think it's interesting as well, because when I went into this launch with the Huntress in particular, I was kind of like, look, regardless of any other changes we made, regardless of any content, I was like, I know the Huntress is fun. Like, I've been playing it, I really, really love it. Like, it is my favorite class that we have made.
Oh.
You know, so then that kind of then took me very by surprise when there were a lot of concerns about the Huntress at the start. It really comes down to those sort of playstyle things, right? Where like, you know, with the parries and the and disengage, like the whole like sort of in-out gameplay style, like I was really, really enjoying that. And a lot of our staff are as well, right? Like we've got a lot of people who are like, yeah, man, this is really awesome. Like it's got a sort of feeling of action that we haven't had, you know, like from the other classes to the same extent. There was that kind of stuff, and so yeah, it was really interesting that we had quite a lot of pushback about that. So then it kind of, once again, it came down to, you know, like we need to try the playstyles that we're not trying. Like we need to, and I need to try doing things that I wouldn't otherwise try, and then find out why, if those things are the problem.
Sure.
So out of curiosity, and this is going to sound like a basic question, but I kind of love your thinking on this. When you get to a situation where you are having to personally choose between something that is more fun or more balanced, how do you approach that?
So on the development team, I would say I'm usually the one who is pushing for more fun over more balanced. There are also countervailing opinions on the team as well, for like people who have to, like, you know, who have to make sure that the balance is good. And it is important.
They're probably like, no, stop having fun, balance.
That's not the way that I would look at it, but it's kind of like, so I mean, I definitely push in that direction, but
Oh Jesus!
it's kind of like,
We had a 2-hour interview right here.
at the same time, there is this concern where I always want the game to be readable and understandable and kind of be able to sort of see what's going on. And so sometimes, like, there's a level of stuff,
See if I can add it
that I tend to be a
to
little
the
bit
stream
more,
while I
like,
play.
I'm uneasy about this, but I tend to be the one pushing for, like, you know, everything should work. If you expect it to work, it should work, and, you know, like, you should be able to do all these combinations and things like that. The issue that you get is that if there are things that are just way more powerful than other things, then it's going to push everyone to play that, and
Yes.
That's going to mean that you sort of lose build diversity, and then there's a fun that you're losing from that that's a little bit harder to immediately identify, but it is important. Like, there's a kind of long-term fun that you get from the fact that you play this game, and there's so many different things you can try, and it's not immediately obvious as you're playing your single build on a single playthrough, where you just want your thing to be powerful, but it's like, you know, we just have to like get to some level of balance and stuff along those lines. But yeah, generally speaking, I'm kind of like, you know, let people be able to do crazy stuff. Like, that is important to me, so long as it's kind of like, you know, like, so long as you get that feeling of progression all through the game from beginning to end.
Sure. Yeah. Have you ever thought about streaming your own gameplay? Would you ever like open up the almost
Could you ever
Pandora's
show us how to
box?
play a Huntress?
Yeah, like just to see.
actually
Like
did.
I see that question so much from the community. Like, well, how do you
Yeah.
play it then? And I
So,
think it would,
so
it
this
would
thought
do well.
this thought crossed my mind actually in the last week, I must admit.
Yeah.
And I kind of realized, I think what I'll do next time when we play, like between the week where we announce, you know, like do our live stream and announce the class, and the time when we actually, you know, like have the release, I think I actually might do some development streams and just
Yeah.
like sort of show people my gameplay. It's
I think
interesting
that'd be
because,
awesome.
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, like, I guess there's no real reason I shouldn't do that. Like, I mean, it's probably.
I mean, you're going to
probably a
get
fine idea.
criticized.
I think it's for both.
but, like,
course.
You're going to do that regardless of if you stream or not.
Well, I was
right?
going to say you're already halfway there. I mean, your outreach to the community and doing these interviews with all the people that you have. I mean, you're essentially doing that already.
Yeah.
So just doing it while playing is the next step. But yeah, that'd be
fair enough.
instrumental. Like I gotta say, it would have been very interesting to see the Huntress release after having seen somebody who knows the ins and outs of it utilize it effectively. Because I can tell you, the first hour, I was just like, okay, wait, am I supposed to do this, or can I just do my one button combo, or am I supposed to like? So like, it's so different and fun.
Why
But
don't
it's
I have this for
It's not, like,
both?
it's not like I'm not used to this, so I didn't know if I was doing it right. So it could be really
Well, the
cool.
thing is, I mean, I'm like, that feeling of this is alien is actually something that I want when we release a new class, because if we're not doing that, then we're not actually making new classes, really, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Like it's kind of supposed to be that each class has a different feel entirely. I mean, like that isn't necessarily always going to be 100% the case to this degree, but yeah, certainly as far as action RPGs are concerned, I don't really know if there's something quite like this in another sort of like, you know, in what you would in the action RPG system. When I refer to action RPGs here, I'm talking about top-down Diablo style games, right? That's what I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot else, you know, like this type of combat around. So you know, then that is what we want to do. And I guess the thing that's interesting as well is that I sort of also suspect that if the Huntress had been in just the set of characters that we had launched at the start of early access, it would have also been quite a different feeling then as well, because then it would have just been like, okay, here's one of the options for the people who like this kind of like parry and really fast motion type of play style. You know, like we're sort of bounding around and doing, you know, like dexterous melee. And that would have been, because I mean, they're like people who love that. But then obviously there are people who are like, you know, I find parrying awkward. I don't like, you know, this or that or the other thing. Then for those people, you know, like obviously other classes may be better. So if it had been launched in that same pack, I think we might have got quite a different reaction from that class in particular. Of course, there's like many other things that people are unhappy about as well, which we're kind of working on.
You want ads that drive results. That's why we built Roku Ads Manager. Sign up at ads.roku.com.
Sure.
But, you know, like that, in terms of that particular like class reaction, I think that would have changed things quite a lot.
Yeah. You mentioned parrying, and as someone who has about 60-ish hours on the Huntress, currently tier 15 maps, I haven't parried since I was like level 10. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for you to hear that a player just completely disregarded maybe the core element of a core element of the class for you?
I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing, I suppose, but it is something that I think that it was a blind spot for me, because when I was playing, like all the way through, I was using parry all the time, because that sort of parry disengage into using a spear combo is something that I was using right from the beginning till the end.
Right.
You know, so that, like, I mean, the idea of that was, you know, like you sort of unlocked all the things that you can do with the with the twisters and stuff like that. And so I think that because we added that extra skill like right after launch,
the game crashed.
Is that combo? Like I don't know if you're using that either, that color weak skill, but you might just be using frenzy charges from other source, because that's the
That
other thing as
sucks.
well. The frenzy charges then become sort of easier using other sources as you go through the game. So I'm curious if are you using frenzy charges at all? Is the first question.
No. I never said I'm a good build. Okay. Full disclosure, in POE1, I probably have like 2,400, 2,500 hours.
Right.
Never done my own build. I've always followed a guide. In POE2, I've never followed a guide just because of how the game's released with its updates.
Yeah.
There's not really guides to follow. So I kind of picked things that I enjoyed. And so this time around, I'm using like Spearfield with Bleed and Knockback. Rake and is it
Rake? I like a lot.
Yeah, more
I do like Rake.
Explosions and things like that.
I like the blood. I like just playing the blood
The bleed
in general.
sort of style of the Huntress doesn't really rely on the sort of parry stuff, but if you're doing the elemental stuff or the whirlwinds, then
the
you
bleed
definitely want to be getting frenzy.
kind of does if you have the corrupted stuff.
Doing that whole thing,
You know,
and
I disagree with that.
effectively, we didn't have a way of getting frenzy charges for the first kind of like 50% of the campaign effectively in an easy manner.
Playing hardcore, by the way, so
and
it's gonna be interesting.
That meant that if you wanted to do, unless you were going bleed, and if you wanted to use all of the elemental spears, you effectively had to do the parry stuff in order to get frenzy charges.
Right.
And so what we effectively did to ameliorate that, if people didn't want to parry, there's adding this cull the weak skill to get frenzy charges anyway, and that means that
To
to that whole side of the build.
Okay.
And it is powerful, right? Like those enhanced spear throws are, you know. like
Call the Week with Lightning Spear was crazy. Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, even the other ones as well, especially because what they do is they, for the other ones, they all unlock round effects like fire and lightning and stuff like that, which then you can infuse with your into your whirling slash, which you then use with the twisters. And so like that kind of stuff is like my primary, like the build that I played all the way to endgame. Because, you know, I don't actually have time to play literally every build to endgame. That'd be completely impossible.
Yeah, no, there's no way.
Development time. But the build that I was playing all the way to endgame was using the whirling slash twisters And then with barrage as well, like which means that you can get like a huge number of twisters. Yeah, that like using ground effects. So that was effectively the build I was playing, and that involved using the parry to kind of get it started. But then I also was using Fangs of Frost to freeze monsters, and I kind of had two variations of the combo. You could either parry into Fangs of Frost if you wanted to have like if you wanted a faster combo for like more like just clearing. Or you could use like parry disengage for
hardcore lag
fights
issues,
against rares or against like bosses or something like that. So
yeah,
that was kind of like what I was doing for like through to end game. But I mean, like obviously there's like we try other things. We have a lot of different experiments. But there's actually this phenomenon that's like kind of annoying, which is that unless you actually play a class from the beginning, there's something about it that just doesn't quite work in testing. Like it's you never get the same feeling unless you actually play through on the character. Like you just make a character and at endgame, and then like you're like, okay, I'm going to put all these skills on it, and you sort of feel you might think that you have the right idea about what the item should be, but somehow it just never quite feels the same as when you've leveled up yourself. And so I actually don't tend to do that very often when I'm playing. And I honestly, I don't even know if I can fully explain why that is. But there is something important about that process that kind of gets you to a state of a character. And like,
yeah.
Well, it's because the character is not just a thing; it's the experience you have playing it to where it is. Like it's when you have a POE character, it's like we've talked about that frequently because like one of the reasons of using builds or having a character played for you, which I know is kind of a hot topic to shared accounts and stuff. Thanks, Elon. But it's very much. I feel the exact same way. It's like a lot of air. You got to have the whole experience to understand every ability, every class. Now I know understanding is not part of you, but still, for it to be yours in your journey, you kind of have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean there absolutely is an understanding of abilities because once again, if I like even for me, right, if we created an ability and I just tried at a high level without actually doing a playthrough that earned it, and this is actually one of those things, by the way, that actually
easy peasy.
Okay, so the reason why the Huntress, I mean, this is true of any class we didn't add, but the reason why the Huntress wasn't ready is we had a bunch of abilities that were effectively designed without doing the playthroughs, right? Like we would make an ability, like this is before, right? We'd make an ability, we would put it in the game, we'd try it on a character that we had pre-constructed and be like, oh yeah, this ability, like does this, right? But like until we realized at some point that like when you actually were playing and then you got the like when you were actually playing and then had the ability to select it for yourself, it completely changed the vibe of like what
Really do hate these commercials.
how that skill felt like it's like it's important that you actually test the part where you actually try
I need to do free, I swear.
you've got going through, and so without that you actually don't even have really an ability that you've actually tested and know that's good. And there are even like some abilities I would say still in the game now that that didn't get enough attention from that part of the experience. And so it's something that I think we can actually improve even on some existing classes as well with some abilities that were like maybe like a little bit rushed or things like that. Like that experience is actually important. And I actually think that the Huntress's abilities as far as like that experience is better than some of the other classes for this reason, because I was spending more time because I was specifically this whole time from the time when we launched early access to now kind of doing playing Huntress and something like that. It kind of meant that it got even like more individualized attention than what I think some of the other classes actually got in that way.
Yeah. Would you say that's how you're going to treat the time between every patch moving forward? Did it feel like that was constructive enough and a proper way of spending your time? I guess is how I'll frame the question.
Well, I mean, the issue with that, of course, is that I wasn't paying as much attention to other things that were problems, right? Which is definitely a concern.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's interesting because I think that one of the issues that we had. Okay, so I'm gonna blame Christmas. This is what I'm gonna blame for all of our problems here.
Oh my God, the war of Christmas continues.
All right,
Oh no, here we go.
Santa Claus, we're coming after you.
So what happens is that so we release early access, right? And then we've got like 3 weeks before everyone's off on their break. And during that 3 weeks, we're in this mode where we're like responding to problems and we're like trying to fix things and everything happens. And then we've got like 3 weeks where where Christmas happens and everyone kind of goes away. We've lost the context of even being in the mode of like we're responding to what the players are complaining about, kind of thing. And it's like, bear in mind as well, at the start of early access, that like 7 out of 10 people are talking to me are being like, oh wow, the game's amazing, it's so cool. Like, because what they're doing is they're playing through the game for the first time, they're experiencing all the bosses, they're experiencing all, just the graphics and the art, and like everything's cool, right? So they're all like, oh wow, the game's amazing, right? And so you got a bunch of people who are also talking about problems, and those are real problems, right? But they're being drowned out by the positivity of like everyone experiencing this new game for the first time.
Sure.
And so like nothing that the players are complaining about today is something that people weren't complaining about back then. It's just that they weren't the loudest voices in the room at the time.
That's true.
And now they are.
Right.
So effectively, like you've got that that thing, and so effectively, so after Christmas, right, we come back and we're like, okay, we need to get this Huntress out. I'm going to focus all my efforts on getting this class out that we're doing, and by then it's like, we kind of had our eye off the ball, as it were, about like what are the issues that are sort of happening in the community as much, because we're like, okay, we're focusing on this next expansion. Like that disconnect, I think, was a real problem between like those two time periods. And so this time, I'm actually, and it seems obvious, but it's like I'm actually taking time in the scope doc for the next patch. So I mean, we've obviously got a document which is like the scope for 030, right? Like we've got a document for that. We sort of know what we're planning on doing for that. We've got in that scope document at the very top, like, make sure the players aren't going to be unhappy about this, make sure the players aren't going to be happy about this, and like, just like, here's like 6 things that we just want to make sure like we're actually doing something about this, as we're considering, like how 030 is gonna come together, so that we don't kind of make that mistake of like kind of forgetting about all of the things that are sort of outstanding issues, as it were. And so I think that shouldn't be a problem again next time. But like I guess that's kind of like the main thing, right? It's just making sure that we don't like forget about the fact that as we're making content, that we also need to be like addressing those kind of like underlying issues as well. So that's kind of what we're doing there.
Yeah.
Speaking of like getting negative comments and negativity generally, when you're making a new addition, a patch, whatever you want to call it, to the game, like, do you have like a meeting with your crew that's like, okay, this is going to make some people mad, so we're going to batten down the hatches and we're going to weather this storm, but we'll come out the other side of it because in the long run, we all believe that it's a good change. Like, is there a lot of that shit happening?
I wouldn't say that it is like that exactly, except for so here's a discussion that we did have. So effectively, when we launched early access, we had a whole bunch of things that were out of control as far as like balance is concerned. Like there were just some things that were just trivializing shit in a way that was bad. And so what we started doing right at the start was we started nerfing those things, right? We kind of was like, okay, this is early access. We're gonna nerf a bunch of things.
When I needed a master's degree that fit my life and my career goals, WGU was the perfect fit. Their
Really?
programs are designed for busy professionals like me, with career-relevant courses that I could...
Like, dude, I barely watch this video.
At WGU.
It's just a podcast. Why do you have a commercial like every 3 minutes?
And
Jesus
right?
Christ.
Like for me, it is understandable, because if you're playing like actively and then someone nerfs what you're doing, you're going to be unhappy about that, and rightfully so, right? Like I was playing and now my character is ruined, right? And the funny thing is that what we thought we were doing, even when we were doing that, like we're mindful of this, right? Like we even thought as we were doing that, like, okay, we're going to nerf things, but we're not going to nerf them to the point where they're bad. We're just going to nerf them to like, we're going to have some like upper bound of like what we're allowing, and we're going to try and just nerf it down to that point. So like the stuff that people's playing that, they're playing because it's part of the meta, we're just going to, we're not going to nerf it even as much as we might want to. We're just going to do like a temporary nerf to get this thing kind of like not trivializing shit. So that's what we thought we were doing. So we started doing that. We did that for like, I don't know how long it was. It might have been like a week, honestly. And then immediately it's like we just got huge amounts of pushback from people. So we're like, okay, we can't do this. So like, how are we going to be able to do all these changes that we know we need to make in order to kind of get things more in line? And the reason why it's important to get things in line is because we need to, as I said before, we need to make sure there's build diversity. Like you're not only playing like one of like a few, like just a few things. And so for that one, we definitely knew, look, whenever we've done nerfs in the past, it's been, it's caused anger. And so then we're like, okay, but in order to offset that, we need to make sure that we've got things like, you know, a new class, that we've got like new in-game content, we've got like enough new stuff that people aren't going to dwell on the nerfs as much, or at least that was the theory. Now, in reality, there was a kind of an effect that I don't think I had appreciated before, that kind of now I think is kind of also another source of a lot of issues, which is that, like, we made a bunch of people who thought, and maybe this is going to come out slightly wrong, but like they thought they knew how to play the game, feel like that they suck now, and that is a bad feeling.
Well, they learned
right?
one
That's a
thing
really
and
bad
then you
feeling to
change
give
the
someone,
thing,
right?
right? Yeah.
Right. So effectively, it's like there were a lot of things that I would say were like, you know, like, well, okay, effectively any change can do this, right? It's like if you've got a thing and you know how you're playing a thing, and then we make a change where now the thing you were doing before sucks and is bad. Now your immediate feeling is like, you know, like, well, you know, that like I know how to play the game, and yet this is sucking, so therefore the game is bad. And like, they're not necessarily wrong to feel that way either, right? Like, making people feel like they suck is a feeling that nobody is ever going to enjoy, right? Like, it's a feeling that is bad. So effectively, like, that is the thing that we effectively did to a bunch of people who were relying on the various things that, you know, that were happening.
I'm just gonna leave him
Now, the
be.
good news is that now that we've gotten things into a much more sort of normalized place, as far as like, you know, think like the outliers are not too crazy, like everything's kind of in a more normal place, that means that we can actually start looking at things from the perspective of like, okay, now we can buff things to make them more fun, we can do all these things, like we can improve stuff. But we did have to get to a point of like somewhat normalization on the balance, like they did have to happen. And I honestly don't know if there was a way we could have done that would have been fun for people to experience. You know, like,
Yeah,
when you
It's
know,
fair.
like everything players are doing, it's not going to be a fun time. Like, it's just not going to be.
So wait, based on what you said, hey Reddit, nerfs are done. No more nerfs. No, we're good.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
we've been notified. They're
yeah.
good.
yeah.
Speaking of things that make me feel like I'm shit at the game, the ascendancies, specifically the third and fourth. How do you feel about those right now in the current stage?
It's rough.
Style 2, because for me personally, the third one is brutal. Like, I abhor doing it. I abhor everything about the process.
I think that is mostly around monster work. So ascendancy monsters are quite hard. Well, okay, specifically Sanctum, the monsters have got a like you effectively have to design every monster in Sanctum like a boss in terms of calligraphing and all that sort of stuff, and it takes quite a lot of work. Like, it's harder than a normal monster to make, and there's more we can do there. Because that was also one of the last areas that got the monster work done before early access. I think it's probably got some of the roughest monster work as well. So there's quite a lot that we have to do there, like, to just improve it. And, like, we're sort of slowly doing some of that work, but I don't think we did enough of that in the last launch that we just did. So there's more to do there. And that's all those like just devil in the details type of work where we just need to just improve monsters to feel better. And we'll get that over time, and it'll be done. But you know, effectively, yeah, we just need to keep on doing more. That being said, like, it is supposed to be the case that Ascension is supposed to be like a point in your character where you feel like, you know, it is supposed to be harder than the content that surrounds it. It's supposed to be like a moment of, you know, feeling, you know, like you earned something here. Like, if Ascension was just a pushover, then it's like, well, yeah, you don't get that feeling of earning it, right? But at the same time, you know, like, yeah, there's definitely monster problems that we have in those both of the Ascension classes. Ascension trials.
It was for me specifically, it was the Sanctum, and I didn't like Sanctum in POE1, so there's, you know, that's a problem to begin with for me, like a personal problem. And I know a lot of that can be fixed with like the get good mentality, and for what it's worth, I ended up getting good.
JP, if you were playing Huntress, right? I mean,
yeah, I ended up getting good, and I ascended, and, you know, I got the power that I wanted from that. The process was to just experience that. It wasn't to like go in there on the first try and get the ascendancy point like it was in POE1 with labs. It was to go in there, get some honor resistance, kind of build up the actual relics and things like that, and really get involved in the process, and then I ascend. Is that always going to be that process to where you,
Well, how many runs,
have to build up to
how many
it?
runs did it take? Is the question I have for you.
4, with one of them being under leveled because I was just farming relics.
Right. I would say that like I would say 2 or 3 is more than what I would want for the third ascension. Well, to be honest, probably for the first few, like that sort of 2 or 3 kind of zone is kind of more what I would expect. Is right. But it obviously it sort of is dependent, right? Like a good player should be able to do it in one once they know how to, once they know how to do that stuff, or they know what the build is like. And that
You
sort of
mentioned it. Some of those mobs just are brutal, like the sandworm mobs. Those things destroyed my honor, especially if I'm fighting like a rare summoning portal or something, and you know, having issues killing them in the first place. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, some of the monsters are just brutal.
Yeah, I mean, it just comes down to like individual cases and that sort of stuff. Like, we just have to make sure that they're all good. And as I said, we've got so many monsters that it's like hard to even, like it takes a long time to go through this stuff.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Something that really like sunk home to me just now, like just recently, during this conversation, was like the fact that it's still in early access. And it's weird to think that. Because it seems like such a polished, finished product. Like, even though obviously it's not done yet, but like even my 50 hours in it was like, oh, this feels like
Why isn't the video
a complete game at all? It didn't feel like early access. So I think we tend to forget that it's still in early access, and
okay? It's being dumb.
That we agreed to buy it in early access, so we should be. I mean, I'm not trying to like kiss your ass or anything, but like I actually giving. Right?
I actually don't fully know if I even agree that because a player, like, we don't have any right to a player's forgiveness, really. Like, at the end of the day, like, people have the experiences they have, and we just have to live with that. And it's like, I mean, look, if we're going to sell a product, then, people should have the expectation they're going to enjoy the product that they're buying, right? Like, sure, we call it early access, and that it is, right? Like, that is a label that does something as far as, like, player expectations is concerned, and that is important. But at the end of the day, you still have to deliver a product that people are enjoying. So, I mean, from that perspective, like, I can't be unhappy when people are... Like, I can't use the excuse of, oh, it's just early access when I'm talking to players, because at the end of the day, like, that's not a constructive thing for me to even say. Like, it's, like, I need to be like, okay, well, what's the issue? Let's try and find out what you don't like, right? I guess one of the things that being in early access does mean, though, is that, like, there are a lot of people who won't play.
What's up, Knight? It's been a while, man. How you been?
Until we're saying that it's fully finished. And so that's kind of part of what you do get from being in early access, is you get to kind of, like, you get to effectively limit the number of people who are playing until you're sort of ready for that big, for that big surge of players that you'll get.
How's life going?
Sure. So, and that's the thing. And so like, from that perspective, it's a very unusual early access, right? Because we had so many players. Like, I actually wonder, like, how many like pay to play early access games have even had this many sales. Like, it might be kind of quite up there as far as that's concerned. So it's quite unusual.
A rare few.
Yeah. It's quite unusual in that regard.
But is that so?
There,
using the current 0.2 patch, specifically like the Wisp mechanic. The Wisp mechanic.
I don't like the Wisp mechanic at all.
Like the League mechanic. Like, what was the bullet point next to Wisp within the design document for 0.2? I'm curious if that is like. I'll stop the question there. And
this area does feel way smaller.
So it wasn't. It didn't rise to the level of being a league.
What are you up to?
Call a proper actual.
Make sure my mic is coming through. It is. It's capturing me.
Leagues have. I mean, it almost kind of got there. Like, they've got crafting systems, they've got meta systems, they've got, like, like, there has to be some way, like there has to be an in-game boss, there has to be all these things. Like, some of those things we didn't have.
Yeah.
So it didn't rise to the level of being a league, and that's the reason why we in the end decided not to make it a league. We were kind of thinking it could be league-like, but we just didn't quite have enough going on with it. But the primary reason why we did the Wisps actually was because we wanted to make sure that there was more content in endgame that overlapped with other content. So one of the big things that was lacking in POE2's endgame was not enough like overlapping axes of randomness, is the thing we call this, where effectively you've got like different mechanics that overlap, so that like you can get more situations that you've never seen before, where it's like, oh, what if the the wisp happened to happen to inhabit this boss, and then that's a different thing, or it happened to be near the strongbox, or like this, like effectively like multiple things that can overlap together to cause a new combat situation. And so yeah, as I said, the reason we picked the wisps was because we wanted something that could work like that and have more content to work like that, and that ultimately will lead to an improvement in the end game. And I think a lot that sort of, as far as the content outside of the Huntress, it was that sort of stuff that we were trying to get there,
right?
In order to improve, just effectively how the end game feels. So we'll probably be doing more of that over time, like when we're concentrating on that kind of more league-like mechanic. That's the stuff we'll be looking at.
Dunkin' $6 meal deal. It's a big deal.
Is it a big deal?
Medium iced or hot coffee,
Iced hot coffee, say less.
egg and cheese, and 6 toasty hash browns. It's the biggest deal in
I really do hate these
Dunkin'
commercials.
$6 meal deal.
So annoying.
Yeah. So is it? Do you find that to be a hurdle, given the history of your POE1 updates, the leagues, the expansions, all of that being brought into POE2 while the game is still in early access, to where there's like these two, progress paths of like, we got to make point 3, we got to introduce another class, we have to set, POE2 is not a finished game, but also we've set expectations because of people being brought over from POE1 with these like expansions and these leagues. Is that is that a hurdle? Like, do you kick yourself at night for like, fuck, we set this up and now we've delivered on it before, we got to do it again, however many times until the game's out of early access, until those things align?
It is a concern, but I think that it's actually important, even regardless of whether or not we were in early access, because
I die, I'm just gonna switch to Infernalist.
content at launch to make
I'm playing hardcore, so if I don't,
really engage.
I'm gonna switch to Infernalist,
One of those things
and I'm
where
gonna run
when
Spectres.
comes out, people complain
Because
on the
main reasons, because of what I know.
It happens with any game, yeah.
So, yeah. So effectively, what it ensures that we will have when we come to the actual full release is that we will have a lot of in-game content, and so I think that when the next release we have, like for 030, we'll probably like turn down the wisps in the campaign, and there'll be some other thing, and like when we get to eventual release, like there might only be a few wisps in the campaign, and like it's one of the many different random things that you can find that just effectively serve as just like interesting things that you find during the campaign. That's what it'll feel like there. But then during the end game, it's like an actual mechanic that you can then engage with and have more stuff going on with, and so
Okay.
it's expanding that universe.
Doesn't matter what I do.
That can exist in endgame, and without I think
It's annoying I
it's
can't
very hard
do anything about
doesn't
this.
have early access to have been able to create the amount of content that an in-game needs, just kind of off the cuff like that. We need like so many different overlapping systems. Yeah, I think that's sort of important.
Sure.
To have a situation like that.
To be blunt, how long did like the wisp mechanic take for development process?
I don't. It's hard for me to even quantify, because you've kind of got like a whole team, and it's like I don't like.
There's no without answering like man hours, I guess.
Dude, it reminds me so much of Abyss. I actually wanted to ask if it was related.
It's actually a little bit of a. I mean, it's more like
Jesus Christ.
POE1. But it does work more like Abyss in the way that the spirits track and go along a path. So it fixes some of the issues that the tormented spirits have. But
I'm struggling.
I wouldn't say it took like that long, really. Like we actually like decided to do them like not even really that early in 2.0's development. Like it didn't really take that long. I mean, consider what we needed to actually make that happen, right? And this is one of the things is that I think we are very good at as a company, is like being able to leverage what we have. So what does it take to make wisps? So the actual effect for the wisps themselves is obviously like made of particles, so there's no like modeling involved in that. The animals are all animals that we had that we could
Once we get the ring, so I don't have to worry about carrying those freaking scrolls.
like we had a bear model.
Fire quiver? I might do it, honestly, for more elemental damage.
so we can utilize those in a completely different context that you would
I'm
never,
going to use
see
Lightning
as
Arrow
games.
until...
In terms of the actual ability stuff, I mean, you've got VFX work, but not necessarily more than like a boss would take. Like it probably took about a similar amount of VFX time as a single boss might take to make that stuff. And then you've got the various mechanics around, like, the programming time. I mean, it wasn't really that hard. It's kind of, yeah, like, I mean, I wouldn't say it really took that long.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, like it's a relatively easy feature to make, and I feel like you get a reasonable amount out of it. And so it's just a question of making more things like that, just having interesting stuff to find.
So is it safe to say that alongside new classes and all the other like early access updates, that's the type of stuff we can expect moving forward for 0.3, 0.4, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, we'll definitely be adding more content like that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That makes a lot of sense. I want to go back to when you said, obviously POE2 super successful in sales and player base. I think at launch you guys averaged like almost double at least Steam count players on that.
Okay, over here.
How hard is it for you to like take all of those new players, and I'm going to use Zeke as an example, and I'll give you a backstory there. Zeke bounced off of POE1 pretty hard. He even had Ziggy running him through it as kind of a Sherpa and bounced off of it pretty hard. But with POE2, and I think he told you this prior to us starting the interview, he put like, 60 hours in it, Zeke, or something like that?
Yeah, 55.
How do you make a game for the Zeeks, but also keep the Zizerins involved? Like
10%,
huge
30%, 40%. We'll get that. We're gonna keep doing the flask because we're gonna do a flask build.
And succeed in making a game like that, or do you feel you've already done that, or is that the forever problem?
Well, I personally. Okay, so if you imagine the sort of Venn diagram of this, as it were.
Okay, yeah, Zeke and Ziz, the
Yeah,
circles.
where you've got like things. So the question you're effectively asking is there any overlap there?
Yeah.
Right?
For your biggest adventures and everyday victories, Shields Visa is here to help you do more of what you love, so you never go alone. Shields Visa. Together, we've got this.
Like, is there a place where the game can be that both of those players are happy with it? And I am a believer that yes, there is. Now, I think there are a lot of players who would say that there isn't, but I still believe that there is, personally. And that is the thing with the target we're attempting to hit. Now, the difficulty of that is that we're attempting to hit a smaller target, right? Because like if we have to nail the dart right into the intersection of those 2 points, then that is a smaller target to hit.
Ooh, she about killed me.
I would say that balancing POE2 is actually much harder than balancing POE1 has been, but I think that a lot of the reasons why Path of Exile 1 had people like you bounce off them is not necessarily the same kind of reasons that people, the POE1 players are unhappy with POE2 right now. I think that those reasons are just incidental complexity that never actually mattered. Like, I don't think that anyone is like crying out for POE2 to use POE1's gem socketing system. Like, that is not the criticism that POE1 players have, and yet it was like a huge thing that caused POE1 to be hard for new players.
Alright, next boss.
There are changes that are just straight up wins for one group that don't affect the other group, and that's the kind of changes we're trying to make to kind of make it so that you're just like things are less complicated, like are nicer to play, like those kinds of things. And so like my hope, like I really don't think that the sacrifices, I don't think there's many sacrifices a POE1 player should be having to make to play POE2, and I really don't think that should even be how the POE1 player should look at it. I believe that there really is an intersection there where we can make both groups of those players like happy about the game.
Yeah, it's not easy as well. I mean,
no, it isn't easy.
Companies fight for that.
I have kind of a follow-up that I know you guys have talked about this extensively in different formats. I know you've been on all sorts of podcasts, but just to kind of get it all in one place. Kind of building on the question you just asked between like the strongest, most educated players and new players, and that kind of then overlap. I'm curious on your perspective on the overlap of your end game players and how you guys are approaching that with POE1.
Right.
So like one thing I've noticed is that you kind of had two sides. You have like more faster one skill gameplay of POE1 on one side, and then you have the kind of more slower, more difficult, more methodical POE2 on the other. So, and again, feel free to kind of dance around this question as much as you like. One thing I've noticed a lot in the PoE community is that there's a lot of people that fell in love with PoE for that first style. They see PoE2 kind of moving a different direction, and then they see PoE1 like not getting quite as much love as PoE2 as they see it go into the distance in a direction they're not digging. How are you guys tackling this? Where you have players like, speed the game up, we want this more, but that kind of goes counter to what you want to do with this, and you kind of have that other option available. Like, do you try to bring the PoE1 players into PoE2, or do you purposefully differentiate them for different experiences?
Well, first of all, I guess the main thing is that it's incredibly unfortunate that the slowdown in PoE1 development happened, because it wasn't our intention to do that. And so, like, my my belief is that shouldn't be a problem after the next expansion happens. Like, that we're trying. I mean, look, we might fail, but you know, the goal is not to fail, of course.
Ooh.
You know, our intention.
That's a great goal.
Put down Earl.
Our intention is still to update PoE1, and it's like there were certainly sacrifices that happened that affected, you know, the PoE1 audience as far as that development is concerned, and that's definitely bad. And like, it's bad that happened. Like, it wasn't our intention to do that, and we did. You know, so like if you're a person who likes
Attack keys are still healing.
PoE2, we still want to have PoE1 there and getting support like it always had. You know, like for that, like that is the thing we want to do. But that said, I still don't want to give up on the idea that a PoE1 player can enjoy PoE2 as well. Like, I really do believe that can be the case. Like I really do believe. Like, I like both games. Like, I do. Like, I like PoE2 better, but I still like PoE1, and I think
I do like PoE2 better too.
I think that can be something that can be true for a lot of players.
So oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you go.
Oh, I was going to say, so is there, do you guys have any type of specific specialization you'd like to do between the two products? Like, make it so, like, if you don't like this, you might like this. Like, from a design philosophy standpoint, are they going to go in different directions to cater to different audiences, or are we always going to see them kind of move in parallel as you explore different things between the both?
It just isn't really the way that I think about it, I suppose. Because, like, I tend to think that, like, I look at individual things on an individual level, right? Like, and I think this is the thing that has frustrated a lot of people in the community.
That's a good one.
Talk about this stuff is that, like, because I tend to be like, okay, it's not that I've got some design philosophy where, like, this is the amount of speed that the game has to have in this many, you know, kilometers an hour or anything like that, right? It's entirely like,
they get hung up on that. I mean, I do it.
Like, right? is this fun or isn't it fun? And like, do you feel the power up is progressing, or do I not feel like that, and so on? And it's like, I guess the only thing I can point to that's like completely certain to me is that it shouldn't be that when you watch a stream of a player as someone who's never played the game before, that it looks like something that is completely incomprehensible ridiculousness. Like, you have that thing where it's like I don't want it to be like, if a person looks at someone playing the game even at a high level, it should look like, oh wow, that character is ridiculous, but it shouldn't be like, I can't even visually understand what is entering my eyeballs here. You know, like, that's that's really the only
that was my first time ever watching.
Anytime JP played a clip on this show of him playing PoE, I'm like,
PoE1.
It's like trying to fucking figure out what the Tasmanian devil is doing.
Dude, I'll never forget the first time. First time I saw it, 2 times. First time I saw an endgame mapper in PoE1 that actually knew what they were doing, and the first time I saw a Flicker Strike build. Were 2 of the most memorable PE things I've ever seen. But no, that makes perfect sense.
To be honest, you still kind of understand what's going on with the Flicker Strike build. Like, at least you kind of have an understanding.
Sometimes. Depends on how many mobs are on the screen.
I mean, that speed exists here. Let me pull up Fubgun's stream. Like, the PoE2 or POE1
Look,
speed.
but immediately, right? You understand what is happening on the screen right now. Here,
Yes,
right?
you see the lightning bolts going out. You see the mob. Yeah. It's not quite like just a Picasso of fast images.
Exactly, right? So it's like, and this is the reason why I'm always hesitant. People are like, are you wanting to slow the game down? And then it's like, well, I mean, I want, to be honest, this is not even as fast as it can go, right? Like, as I said,
It sounds like what people are saying is they want the game sped up at the beginning.
Sure. Some people do say that, right? And that is, I think, a bit of a difference. That might be. Well, so this is an interesting concern, right? Because the other thing as well is even the term beginning means something entirely different to some players than others. Like some people will tell me, oh yeah, like, you know, the monsters have too much life in the early game, and then I find out they're talking about like Act 5, you know, like effectively crawl Act 2, and it's kind of like from their perspective, that's the beginning of the game, right? So it's like I think that we did have a problem with with issues like in the sort of mid campaign. The other thing as well that we have an issue with is right now we still have crawl difficulty, right? And so the game does drag in crawl difficulty if it's like, you know, a little bit when you played this before. Like, you know, we had this back in POE1 in the early days, but you know, the game does start to drag in the second time you're playing through the campaign. So just not having that problem will be a massive boost as well. You know, once we get all the acts and everything like that. So yeah.
I'll tell you this, like as a, you know, first time player, first time going through, I played all of my 55 hours with the same character and stuff like that. I was like, I was totally like, I don't think the beginning acts need to be sped up at all. However, if I wanted to go through it again, which is kind of the game's designed to do that, go through it again with different characters or, you know, different builds in mind, whatever, then it would feel slow because I've done this. And like, that's like for a brand new player like me, the speed was fine.
You got my dog.
Right.
But like, I could totally see myself going through the same act again with a different character and going, wow, this feels like I'm trudging through a swamp.
Right.
I think,
Good
that's
boy.
like a POE1 issue as well. That's been, I mean, have you guys thought about changing that at all from POE1? Like, what's the thinking with that?
Changing.
Well,
what exactly?
the biggest comment that we all get is like, do I still have to do the campaign? Like, just to completely cut, like, do I still got to do the campaign? Like, is there going to ever be shortcuts, skips, alternate routes?
Like, one big thing is respecting time. Like, that's that. Like, a lot of people feel that in POE2, it doesn't respect necessarily the time, especially compared to POE1, because of how slower it is. So, are we going to have like a cumulative effect of not only having this much larger, much girthier, slower campaign, but then also having to repeat that multiple?
Well, okay, so I guess the part that I sort of would say about that is that at the end of the day, and this is kind of the way that I tend to think about things, it's like if you're saying that you're not enjoying the campaign, then that just means the campaign needs to be better, right? Like it's just like
even if it's like the 20th time they played it.
Well, I understand, but on an intellectual level, it's easy to say, okay, I'm not going to enjoy playing through this again, and that might even be true with the campaign in its current state, but I am a believer in the idea that you can make something like this compelling enough that it is fun to play again. And part of the reason why it is because when we have leagues, there's a different thing going on with the campaign to kind of mean that, you know, like it changes your perspective on, you know, like what things are. In an ideal league will actually affect the content that you're playing as well. Like it'll make it feel like a different play experience. And then there's also the fact that you're playing a different character class. It has a different feel. Like there are bosses where like they feel completely different. Like there are a lot of the time there'll be situations where like, okay, you know, you'll play a boss with one type of character, then you'll play it with another one. It just feels like a completely different thing. Like this boss, I just trivialized it. It was easy the first time I went through. This time I'm like, you know, it's like just due to the way that my character is, it you know, feels very different. So I guess what I'm saying is that like it's certainly not helped by the fact that we've got 2 copies of the campaign in the game right now, because it means that you played through it twice. You know, like the first time you played through it. Like, I believe that it is possible to get the campaign to the point where you will be fine playing through it, and it's like, ideally, the experience you're having is just fun. And I mean, like, the POE1 campaign, I mean, you know, like, it does get stale over time eventually, but, like, it's still something that people play through again and again and again, and, like, the reason why is it's there to host the other content that we also add every time, right? Like it's there to be the place where you do all these things. And I don't know that if you just started level 1 in endgame, like I'm not really sure that would be like that different, really. Like, I mean, like at the end of like why are you playing a game again at all, right? There's like 3 reasons you could be doing it. One reason is to experience the new content that we've added, and because of the way we add content in leagues, like you can experience that in the early game or the end game, so that doesn't kind of change anything about that. And another reason can be that you're playing a different character class, in which case you still need the experience of like leveling it up and going through and like, you know, sort of learning the abilities and growing with you. So like I don't know that like starting in the end game would materially change that, really. Like it's just a question of like, are you having fun doing the thing you're doing?
Okay, so just to push back a little bit, because this you have a very unique project here, and I want to understand this better. So you said you want the campaign to be engaging, but at the same time, like it's designed to be played. Like it can be engaging, but anything you do 20 plus times, like you're doing the same thing, hearing the same voice lines, doing the exact same pattern. Like even if you're engaged, it still seems like it would just get super repetitive. And the other thing that I think, which is interesting here, is POE is not one game. POE is 2 distinct different games. It is the campaign, and it is the end game. And a lot of people don't want to play this first one a bunch of times, but they really want to play the second one a bunch of times, which means they have to slog through the first one a bunch of times to get to the part they like, which immediately changes what this one is.
Here's where I think that I disagree about that, is that I don't see those as 2 separate things in the same way that I think that that you necessarily are saying there. Because ultimately, like you said, anything that you play through 20 times can get boring, and I don't disagree with that. But then at the same time, in the end game, you're playing through the same map 20 times.
But you're coming back to the season for like the new mechanics, the new changes. So you come back for the new stuff, but you only get to that stuff.
Also available in the campaign as well. So if you're going to make the
he's right, it is in the campaign.
You know, like what I'm saying is like the only difference between the campaign and the end game is the order in which you play through areas is fixed in the campaign and isn't in the end game. Like that's really the like, you know, like, and okay, but the other difference being that you've got more of a mix of mechanics where you've got like you know, like different, like there's more overlapping mechanics that are happening at the same time. But I don't know that even in a context where you were, if you imagine playing the end game from level 1, I don't think you could just introduce every single thing like right at the very beginning of that either, right? Like you have to have on some.
No, I mean, like we were talking about earlier, you have to have that character growth, right? Yeah. But I mean, it seems like there would be some kind of middle ground for like you do the campaign once per patch or league, and then your second campaign is like shorter, or maybe you have all the exits already marked in your map before you get there.
Within a league.
Yeah, so within a league. So like every time you do a new character, like the campaign vicariously gets like shorter and shorter and shorter. Not necessarily due to content, but the player's ability to get through it. But like one thing, for instance, is like, you know, players have contests and how fast they can get through the campaign to get to where they it's like that World of Warcraft episode in South Park where they spend, you know, 40 weeks leveling up to get to the real game, which is the end game. So it just seems like for players that are in that perspective, it seems like there should be an option. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, one of the things as far as like multiple playthroughs of within a single league is that I think that players are maybe not happy enough with the level.
First playthrough and get even. Hey, Bam! No, it's not my first playthrough. This is my first I want to say it's my first hardcore playthrough. I'm playing hardcore and then watching more Jonathan review.
You get a bunch of items.
As far as GGG, how you doing, dude?
Because you know, you've got a bunch of items that you got.
I have like 20 characters.
More than double the speed.
I'm just playing hardcore. I'm trying to make it through the ending in this season because I made it finally in last season, but it was like near the end.
Absolutely.
What I do to keep myself from getting bored with characters is I will play one. If I die, I rotate to a new class altogether, and then I decide to build. So the build's different every time. I don't try to play meta builds. I just play what I feel like playing with the character. For this one, I think I'm gonna do Pathfinder, and then just throw bombs nonstop.
Like we might need to improve things there. Like I know a lot of people are saying that like some of the level, like you know, there's like various reasons why like leveling uniques aren't good enough and that kind of stuff, or like, you know, a lot of unique options and that kind of thing. Like,
what are you up to?
Stuff that can help a lot there, I think. So and that also can be another type of experience that's also fun to have. like because that is your experience of just like, completely obliterating everything as you go through, like using these ultra powerful items.
True.
So that is also an experience we want players to have too. Like that's the kind of thing that ideally is the solution to that.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you for answering these questions so just transparently and candidly. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I both this and not necessarily a question I have, but last week's interview that you did with Zizarin. If you guys haven't watched that in the audience, definitely go check it out. Yep. It was a bit heated at times, and I think you made
and I feel bad about
comment
that,
to but I still think it was a fantastic conversation, and the
I do good things. I'm only just in Act 2 with my first playthrough and Element Monk. Oh, nice. Monk's pretty fun.
For the patch,
Just can't find the time. I don't blame you. The game is time consuming.
that was great.
It's probably my most played game at the moment, though.
We do need people to bring specific things to our attention.
But
so
I love this game a lot.
It's useful because, and it's also always easier when you're talking one-on-one with someone because then you can ask questions about like okay, well, what's actually happening specifically here and that kind of stuff. Like that's always important. It's similar to that.
But yeah, this game's fun. Highly recommend it. It's one of my favorite games as of now.
With the specific
Used to play it's either that or ASA Arc, but I'm not really a fan with snail games and what they're doing at the moment, so it's kind of my go-to game.
It's
all of them, minus 20 across the board.
That's the thing, right? That's what a player will say. That's what a player will say, and it's like
it's not an answer.
That's why it's important.
Yeah.
Honestly, the issue that I had when I was doing that interview.
But yeah, I'm playing hardcore. I just got done with softcore. Played Lich. Didn't get super far. Like I got to end game with the Lich.
It was an interesting.
Enjoyed the Spectres quite a bit. There's a lot of mechanics with Spectres that I don't think a lot of people know. It's pretty cool. Playing. I'm gonna play Pathfinder this run through. Worst case scenario, I'll play Infernalist. That's probably gonna play if I don't make it well.
Thing there, like as an example, was
with any of them.
I don't remember the exact wording of the question, but it was something like, there shouldn't be any monsters faster than the player, effectively. Like, that was the thing. And, like, what I did was I launched into defending that, rather than just talking about the fact that, okay, we are actually looking into a bunch of monster speed issues, and we are actually, like...
I just played the first few days after release because I had the flu after, and that it's work. Yeah, I feel that.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Work is my problem. I try to play at least an hour or two a day with this game, because you gotta play to get loot.
It's like a very different situation.
I mean, you mentioned, I think that goes both ways, right? Because you mentioned, like, players screaming X needs to be fixed, but not the specifics of what X is. I think as someone who's talked to a lot of...
That's not good. We're up to a big fight in the second phase.
It's one thing that we have to get...
Normally, I like to get them right before the crow bell number, but...
We think the problem is to be able to identify that.
I don't know. I mean,
he's gonna be chunky.
Right. That's
very true. But we could, we could try to be better at it because I suck.
It's our job to yell at you for your poor decisions. That's what our job is.
The thing is, but what I will say is that but on the other hand, if you're in our QA department, now it is your job to actually get specific about individual things, right?
Yeah.
So like that's one of those things that
I think it goes both ways.
It's also one of those things that when people enter QA, they have to learn about like that kind of stuff. It's like it's not enough to just say like.
I first played. Oh yeah, you just said the same thing.
What monster were you fighting? Like, what was the exact situation?
Yeah, no, I really like the game.
Basically, everyone.
I've been playing it like crazy.
When anyone dies, you need to take.
This is taking up more of my time than anything right now.
Just have a little submit button next to. Instead of a death recap, we'll submit a video. There you go. So you guys have all the information. Closing in on 15 minutes left. I kind of have some sort of rapid fire stuff. I joked about death recap there. Is there ever going to be any sort of death recap system in POE2?
I mean, I'm not against the idea fundamentally, but every time we've ever talked about this, you start to get into a bajillion corner cases that make it
it's a loaded
kind of
question.
hard.
I get it.
Yeah. So it's not really a question.
There we go.
It's a question of like, there's always been something more important, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. I guess these are the tough questions, and so I apologize beforehand. Community love.
Problem is, I don't know what route to go because I don't know what impacts that build. So I've been just stacking
kind of where he's been.
just charges for Flask.
From GGG about that. I think we've
like left and right.
Things like
on Brad's side, I'm not gonna have like any Flask issues ever.
I mean, he.
but I need to do research of like what impacts
for, you know, quite a
that
long
ascendancy.
time. And then recently, he
Because we're
also,
probably going to go hardcore crit,
there's nothing really much
base
else to say about it,
global
really, like,
Yeah, I
you know,
didn't think
crit, but loses defenses.
Just
Yeah, yeah.
people.
I mean, I
like
still,
to-
Yeah.
I still watch him every
Movement
day,
speed?
just online, like, you know.
Reduce
Yeah.
movement speed, pendant while heals while
Coe kinda
moving.
mentioned it earlier.
Yeah,
Uh,
because
I
the
kinda
goal
shared
is to
the
just
spotlight
be a
with-
flask thrower, but I just need to know how much
pretty strict
flask
rules
usage
that
happens
that
and how it
is
works.
RNG, in the past.
With Pathfinder.
Action on that front?
Ugh.
Is that a special
Are you
case?
waiting for 1.0?
Do you have
It's
anything to
just-
say?
It's just nothing. I don't think I've got anything to say about this
Okay,
particular issue.
I
Got it.
figured as
10-4.
much. I figured I would ask,
Yeah.
but yeah. That's good luck with that.
Will you personally be banning eat? No, just kidding.
In an age where people like to pit companies against each other, do you consider yourself competitors to Blizzard, Diablo 4, Last Epoch? Like, how do you view these other companies? Are you trying to beat them in player count, or are you just existing and hoping that the game speaks for itself? How do you look at that?
I mean, I guess I don't really.
Blood got boring, so I switched to juices. And then I switched again to
It doesn't really bother me particularly that, like, you know, other companies, what they're releasing and that sort of stuff. Like, the only thing that ever matters is if, you know, like, if something happens. A thing that is relevant is if something happens in the genre that, like, moves it forward in a way that we have to respond to, then that's something that we have to.
Remember you this enemy I said, so you have a bell, so does my monk bind does more damage?
Like, it's fine. Like, I mean, the nice thing about the genre is
Yeah.
that it's not like World of Warcraft where, like, you know.
Yeah, the belt tech used to be even way better before they changed it. The belt, like, it used to be like gross.
An action RPG.
Just slam the bell once and just non-stop, just hit it.
You play it 4, you go, you play another one.
It's even great. The belt's even better with, you know, team people, and you hit it with different type of elements. It just keeps resonating those elements. It's
which was very unfortunate.
like the monk, like team play mechanics in this game is like
Coordinate with them in the
on a whole new level.
That'd be great.
I mean, yeah.
We ran a team comp,
Are there back channels?
and we had a fun time
Back channels between
running rarity. We had a healer. We had a carry. Like we had like almost like a World of Warcraft style
like
game going.
Coming around this time.
Support.
Coming out, and I'm kind of like that actually might conflict with something.
Or a bot to do more crits and stuff like that. Like the game can get pretty nutty.
You know, so like, but the thing is,
My foot is asleep.
Like, so we had a date, and look, I don't know how they're thinking internally, but I think that their plan was to come out a little bit after that date. We didn't give them what the exact date was, but we kind of had said, like, in the community, like, you know, sort of, like, people sort of vaguely known we were planning on coming out, and then we then got delayed, right? Like we couldn't make our date, and there's like just nothing I can do about that. I can't come out any earlier. Obviously, than what, you know, the time that we can come out, right? Like it was just it got unavoidably delayed, and then it was like really unfortunate because I actually probably would have delayed an extra week to get out of their way, but we have a Easter. We've got Easter,
right?
And then there's actually another public holiday the weekend after that, which means there's a 3-day week. So we do have a 3-day week. Everyone takes those 3 days off. Like everyone has put in for time off during those 3 days, right? Like that week is just dead. It's not happening.
Yeah.
And so what would have happened is if we delayed another week, then that week would have been right after our launch. Which obviously, if we'd just had the launch we just had and everyone was on holiday, that wouldn't have been.
Just to make sure I heard this properly, just to be clear, if those holidays weren't there, you would have moved POE2 for Last Epoch?
I would have moved it a week, right? Not in a way that the players would have seen, right?
Hey, that's plenty of time. Yeah, no,
I would have moved it a week. I wouldn't have moved it 2 weeks. I wouldn't have moved it 2 weeks because
there's only so much you can,
that is
right? Yeah, absolutely.
But a week I would have moved. But yeah, we just couldn't move that week, unfortunately. And so then, and I felt real bad about it as well because I was like, I don't want to do that to them, right? I don't want to do, like, it's not something I want to do. But at the same time, if we were delaying 2 weeks and then the players like knew that, like that would just be awful, right? Like our players would have crucified us for that, and rightly so, right? That would have been terrible. So
Yeah.
effectively, like, it just ended up that way. And like, I don't know whether or not it was a good idea for them to then move in response to that. Like, I honestly can't say whether or not that was right or wrong. But I certainly don't feel great about that happening. Right? Not amazing. Like, I don't want to ruin their plans in any regard.
Yeah. To be blunt, though,
not...
it's very cool you're even thinking of that. I mean, we live in a day of kind of faceless corporations for a lot of games this size, so that's cool to know. Not only that you guys are talking, but even considering doing stuff like that. I think I speak for many of us when I say, just like you were saying earlier, we love Last Epoch and POE2. So in a perfect world, we'd love to be able to, like, do both when they're all shiny and new. So it's great to know you guys are, like, talking.
That's cool. Well, I'm really hoping.
It is cool.
Hoping that doesn't happen again, because as I said, it was really unfortunate, and it really sucked that there was just that holiday thing that like blocked it. It's just like, it's just very unfortunate timing. That happened there.
It'll happen. Every once in a while, it'll happen. One of the things in terms of like the issues of now or the issues of today, a lot of people have been asking about the EU server issues. I don't know if there's a specific.
Yeah. So. That's just DDoSs, unfortunately, that are very hard to deal with.
Yeah.
Like, there's unfortunately not like a complete solution to DDoSing on the internet. If someone's really doing that stuff. So
that sucks.
It isn't a question of NOS wanting to like pay more money for more servers or anything like
Okay,
that.
Bubba.
It's entirely like.
I'm just moving my seat. My dog was like, "What are you doing?"
Like,
did you
moving.
know you can AFK Bloods and Zaya whilst learning to code
I
in Python?
didn't know that, but I don't care.
It takes out like 5 or 6 machines, and then if you're having to play on those machines, then that happens, and then they move on to another 5, and like that kind of thing. It's just like very annoying.
Yeah.
Like, look, we are investigating more options to try and improve that, but that is the source of that.
I really don't know where to go.
I think even
because I'd like to get more flash charges, but I also want to be able to survive until I get to the point where I can decide if that's really it. Because I think these would be nice.
See if there's anything.
But like I said, I don't know what impacts.
Like analytics, right? POE is such a
Any of this. I like how there's
numbers and whatnot.
both of these here.
For you as a dev and
if I was going to bleed, that'd be nice.
Do you have like a data point
Poison
that you're constantly looking at, and if that number goes bad or that number goes positive, it affects not only your mood but like the direction?
Average player time to death.
Yeah, like what is that number? If there,
I mean, the number for me is just concurrent users, just number of people online right now.
Okay.
Because that really, I mean, look, if people aren't enjoying the game, they're not going to play it. And this is actually something that, I actually yesterday, like, I was talking to Mark, about all of the, all of the stuff, and the thing that he said to me is, like, he sort of had to remind me of that fact. Like, he's like, look, the retention of this POE2 launch, like, in terms of concurrent users on the like weekend to weekend, is higher than any POE1 launch we ever had before.
Right.
So it can't be that bad.
I mean, it's a... Yeah. I mean, I totally understand you have to put things in perspective, right? Like, when the internet's shouting at you to fix a myriad of issues, if there's a data point you can look at, they're still playing.
Right.
Yeah. So they might be mad, but they're still there.
Yeah. I mean, look, we still obviously have. There's still tons of things to fix. It's like I don't want to discount that in any
totally.
regard.
Yeah.
Like on some level, like it's okay. Like because the thing is, when a million people start to say, the game is bad, the game is terrible, it's hard to even remember yourself. That there's actually a game there that is good, even though there may be problems. So just seeing that and reminding myself of the fact that there are actually a lot of people playing the game is I think it was certainly important for me to kind of be like, yeah, you know what, like, sure. The benefit we're getting from all the people yelling is that we know that we need to fix stuff, but we still have a game that people are enjoying, and that is and that is a good thing.
Sure. It is a good thing.
So, yeah, I mean, we're still doing well, and like, I mean, this launch was still larger than any POE1, like in terms of absolute numbers as well, right? Like, this launch in terms of people online was larger than any POE1 launch we ever did. It is approximately what I expected as far as like relative to the other launch. So generally speaking, like what we've always observed is the first launch is you get a number, and then the this is in any market we've entered, and any subsequent launch is 50% of what the first launch was. But then the way you know that you're doing well is that you start growing from there. So you have a number, you go half, and then you're going up like hopefully 5%, something like that, you know, each time after that, and that's how you know an action RPG is doing well. So it's really seeing like, you know, the people come back next time, you know, like how well do we do there? That'll be the question.
Sure. Yep. We could do a round of final questions and then call it an interview. For me, it's 8 a.m. there. What time is it on Monday, the start of the work
right
week?
now it's it's 8 o'clock. You can see the sun rising in the background there, which is
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What's the first thing that's going to be on your desk when you get into the office? What are you doing?
So we are going to look into item drops because a lot of people are saying that the wisps are not rewarding enough.
They're not.
And they should mathematically be.
But they're not.
Those things give like 300% better, like more. Well, okay, it's not more items. It's more like more. The number that we use for like rarity that increases the drops, how good they are, right?
Right.
And it also gives two extra drop slots. So effectively, like, there's no reason why they should feel unrewarding, but they do. So therefore, I need to understand what's going on with that. And I spent like quite a lot of time yesterday looking through like the simulations and like seeing what's going on. And like I've definitely identified that there's something going wrong in the item drop system that I'm not quite happy with. And hopefully, if we fix that, it'll make this the wisps feel better.
Cool.
So yeah, that's kind of the thing that I'm going to be probably spending a few hours on this morning to see if we can come up with some kind of improvement there.
Cool. Fantastic.
I like the first thing I read in chat. 300% of zero is still zero. Because of course, that's how he feels.
Yeah. I will also say chat erupted
That's
mostly in jubilation when he said that you're going to be taking a look at Luke.
That's pretty funny. 300% of zero is still zero.
WTF. Great. But is it on based?
Oh.
Oh god, that's fucking funny.
Base values are trending. Great. Excellent.
Fantastic. Zeke or Co, any final questions?
I got one.
I had one from my audience. That
Go
might
ahead.
be an easy one.
Yeah,
I'll go last.
Zeke,
I don't know if it, John, this is from my audience. Tell me if it matters, because I don't know. Ask him about difficulty scaling with multiple people, and if it's been adjusted. At launch, me and 2 others had to stop because it was so difficult.
That's just the game, baby. Sorry.
There wasn't any change. There wasn't any change from early access's launch, so yeah, it shouldn't be. But I mean, like, it can be that various nerfs like got hit. But I wonder, like, as well, whether that feedback was before or after the change to Monster Life we did. That was a few days in, because we did a pretty substantial change to Monster Life in the sort of mid game.
Okay.
So it's possible that they might
It's
have a
this
bit of
way.
time now if they were playing before that point. So it should just be a question of that.
Yeah, Monster Life before was really brutal. Like, it was, by all means, like, it was rough. Hey, Richard. Like, it was not fun.
Get started with 40 free drives per month.
Man, this
John,
interview's about over. Okay.
Were they parrying?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing, right? Hard for me to say without knowing more specifics about exactly what part and exactly what stuff, right?
So, I gotta. This is just a quick yes or no, but it's a big question close to my heart, especially one that I think would be great for newer players. Any plans to ever have it so I can open up my passive tree and see like import builds or overlay classes over it? So as a newer player, I would have like a really good idea of where to go on this gigantic ass tree.
So this is a thing, and I'm trying to remember. Okay, so we made this feature a while ago, and I can't even remember whether or not we enabled it. Is it even? I don't even know if it's live. We actually did make a feature where you could get a build file from it. think it's probably not live then. Probably if
Yeah, I've never heard of this.
We've never heard of
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Cool.
So the idea
That sounds
was
cool.
to download
Implement.
a build file and then set that as your thing, and then it would highlight all the nodes of that build.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, it'd be amazing. And then you could make like some pre-default ones for new players that are just like super basic, but get you.
Well, here's the thing. That's the part that I don't want to do because I don't want to. The reason why I'm fine with the build thing where you where you go to a build guide and then you just download the file is that
you're not telling the player how to play.
Yeah, exactly, right? So effectively, like at that point, they've already decided they want to follow someone's guide. So like, therefore, it's fine, right? But at the point where, but if you're just like into the game and then the game's immediately like, why don't you pick one of these build guides? Like, I'm kind of like, I'm not a fan of that, you know? Like, I don't want to, like, I feel like if you want to follow a build guide, that's great, but you have to seek it out. You know?
Yeah. Well, and
I totally agree with that because
yeah,
I wanted to mention this before. One of the things that I really enjoyed about POE2 is that I got through the entire thing before it, restarts or whatever. I got through the entire thing without looking up any builds or anything.
Anxiety's about finally healed. It's hurting.
Get through it. It was fucking tough, but I got through it. And then I looked at a build guide and I'm like, wow, I was way off. Holy shit. And then I did the build and I put all the nodes in the proper spot. And I was like, God, this is like baby shit. I'm just zapping everything. But I could get through it. So I like that you don't do it. And also, if you put that in the game, you're gonna make someone like me feel like an idiot. Like I'll start putting things in nodes, and then I'll go like, "What do you suggest?" And like, God damn it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different things I could see that would be bad about that. But I agree with Jonathan in the sense like, if a player seeks it out, they should be able.
That's optional.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. Yep.
Yeah, that makes a lot.
That's cool though that you guys are thinking about that because I would love to have all that in game for builds. Like if we could just open up P and see a little text box in the bottom right that was like path of building code paste here, like that would be amazing.
Now,
well, in POE2, I suppose now that I'm thinking about it, you would also have potentially the capability of having the same file list recommended support gems, like overriding the recommendations that we have, which would allow a build designer to set the gems that you should be using as well, like so that would appear when you open the recommended supports from
very useful, yeah.
So that would actually be another. I just thought about that just as you were talking there. So
you could have like Path of Exile guide masters make like purposefully like this is for new players suggestions, not necessarily like a roadmap, but like here's some suggested stuff for you kind of thing. And that opens up a lot of interesting doors.
Yeah. I would.
All right.
Of course, all optional.
Yeah, I'm curious about how as someone who doesn't make like build guides or anything, but for PoE2 content creators, where that is their livelihood, right, is making build guides. That's how they take ad rev and whatnot. I wonder if they would be against that because you no longer need to seek out a video and watch an ad because it's all in game and there's no monetization, right? So I wonder if you get pushback for that from the creators. So they took our jobs.
150,000 people like it, but those 3 streamers.
Yeah, no,
so we
just
probably shouldn't do it.
I just wonder if you get pushback from them, and to what extent that goes. I don't know. It's an interesting conversation, and it is very much like Coach said.
I don't think there will be pushback.
It would be very
because they can
still consideration
have codes for people to download and stuff like that for their builds.
We're a little bit over. But
I don't see that being a pushback.
I'm sorry. Thank you so much for
coming to our neighborhood.
Coming to our neighborhood. Yeah. Anything you want to say here before we wrap it up so you can get on with your day. It's only 8 a.m.
Yeah.
So you can go to work.
Just like it was really nice chatting to you guys. Like I had a fun time, and I'll go in, we'll start working on stuff, and hopefully like people will like the changes we're making. I guess that's the main thing, right?
Yeah. Fantastic. We're gonna do shout outs here for Zeke, Co, and I. But Jonathan, feel free to go on about your day. We really appreciate it. We're gonna shift over to this. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you very much
on
for
the
having
show
me.
whenever.
Jonathan.
We'd love
It's
to
awesome.
have you on. Let's do some shout outs and wrap up the show. Co and Zeke. Zeke, please begin.
Yo, what's up, everybody? My name is Ezekiel the Third. You can find me at or slash Ezekiel_III on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Ezekiel the Third, all spelled out on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you, Jonathan and Roger, for joining us today, talking about POE2 and putting up with my loud, spitting, sputtering questions. You're very gracious, so thank you.
It was pretty cool.
Thank you to Co and JPL.
I liked it a lot. Like, I think they were very. I think Jonathan. I like Jonathan, especially in that interview. Because the last interview, he was very fiery. Which, to be fair, when people shit on baby, you get upset. Everything's on performance, right? Yeah, ultra performance. Yep. Cool. Now we can focus on the game. What is there a second one? Maybe one more? And then boss. This is the boss ring, but we still have one more ritual.
Stupid cultists. This ritual is an affront to nature.
Dude was tanky. Okay. We're making good progress, honestly. What? I'm pretty sure I have pretty good movement speed for no boots. Yeah, almost 5%. It'd be on the left side.
Thunderous shot. I shall overcome.
I think tomorrow I'll play some other levels. Use a scheme or last time.
Thunderous shot.
Yeah, I haven't even maxed it out yet, but my recovery is already really good. Go here, we'll go here, we'll get this. And then, like I said, hopefully by the time I get my first ascendancy, which will be level 22, and I'm what, level 12? I can figure out where to actually put things. Because I don't know, like, what would buff that ability. But I'm, like, never running out of my flash. I see my flash recharge so quick. You need summon it, but it's gonna get deleted.
Fury.
Which one you got me? Yeah, I'm just gonna keep shocking you. There we go.
Fury.
We're gonna do Wind Dancer. Oh, so that's actually cool. Wind Dancer will work regardless. Alchemy's Boom we're definitely gonna use. Grants allies are ready grants 20 charge per second. That will definitely need. I think we're gonna do Herald of Blood as well. Because I think I'm doing the bleed one. Because I think that'll be so much fun if I can get the the Huntress, and then we'll do the Herald of Blood. We need strength? Okay. I keep forgetting that the Huntress is a strength slash. Okay. I'd like to get the Herald of Blood now, but Wind Dancer I'll take for now.
Return to the void.
Oh, that's really good. I'll put that on. We'll just take it because we're going to sell items. And then now we can go to the Executioner. But the good part is they'll keep people off of me. And I think that'll be great for the build in general. And then we can start focusing on other things. That'll be far more advantageous.
Owners, you. So the cultists really. Thank you. Take a punt. You know you want to.
Yeah, the evasion gear we're getting is way better too. So it looks like we're due for an upgrade. Yeah. That's some good stats. Let's see. Increase charges. Perfect. Yeah, I think everything else will be good to dump. Yeah. Deconstruct some stuff.
This hooded one, take a look.
I definitely think we need a better bow. Or at least a better offhand.
If you find a pint out there, do bring it back.
Okay, so what has been upgraded? Our chest, helmet, bow probably needs, boot definitely needs to be.
Yes.
So we will play gambling for the dex boots. Just for the devil.
Guess I can help move.
And belt we definitely need to upgrade. Yeah, thorns is not my cup of tea. So let's check the gems because we have some gem slots now. Anything that beats up cold would be nice. Dex, leeches mana. Don't really care about that too much. Cold resistance, yes. So we'll add that in because we're about to fight the boss, so we need some cold resistance. Martial weapon. I haven't upgraded my martial weapon at all. I think that would give me some damage boosts. Pretty sure if I upgrade, does it just be both on the bow? Okay, cool. I'll just do that. Let's go in on beefing physical damage. We'll do 1 physical damage because the other portion is lightning I want to add. And that'll make my lightning damage go up way significant. And we can go nuts with martial weapon because I've been stacking them like crazy. There we go. Now my damage will be way better. And then we just go and fight the execution now. Our damage is going to be weak until we get our ascendancy. And then I have to figure out how to work with that ascendancy. Oh, I feel my movement speed so much faster. Like, I am flying compared to what I was.
Trophy. No mana.
Yeah, I'm going way faster than I was. Just giving that 10% movement, I got 15. Can get really high.
Storming arrow.
Be around this direction we need to go. Getting some lag spikes. Okay.
In my sight. I need more mana. Quick and lethal. Fury! Return to the earth. Stop. Just wait. Surely we can.
Ranger, you have been sentenced to death.
Fate will take you, bastard! That execution will be your last.
Get down here! The guillotine drops.
That hurt.
Fury!
Down
Whew. We'll be 15. We're actually doing pretty good on levels. Probably get to 17 before we fight the final boss of the act.
All this rock and stone cannot hide the rot within. Thunderous shot! The wilds are my weapon.
Let's try to add some strength-based stuff. Because now we need to get Terrible Blood rolling. Going to the bleak grenades. Alright, let's go ahead and depot, get all this, and then depot again. Free loot's free loot.
How can...
For what it isn't worth. There is an enter the manor. It's all gone.
Yes. These are just some odds and ends. I will treasure it.
No, the amount of damage it gives me is not enough to justify.
If you find a find out there, don't bring it back.
$55 cold. That's pretty good.
Fury! In my sights! arrow.
I am mowing them down.
I shall put you down.
That's a sleepy boy.
Thunderous shot. Too weak, too slow. Fury! I need more mana.
Gargoyles are rough at times, not gonna lie. You have to break their defenses before they can finally start doing damage. I think I cleared almost everything besides this small area. I'm not even worried about it. It's probably maybe 10 mobs at best. At best. Go on the next part.